Wow.
There we go. All right, Dina. Wait, let me say your name correctly. Deanna or Dean?
Deanna.
Deanna, I'm sorry. Okay. Deanna, it's such a pleasure to talk with you today. And how you doing?
I'm doing great. It's great to be here with you today, Laurie.
Good. Okay. So first, and we're here to talk about your experience in Path to Purpose and what things were like before and how you're thriving now. How long have you been part of the Infinite Couple universe?
Just a couple of years now. I came into their universe. Yeah.
Really? Wow. What was going on before you found them? Like, how did you find them too, as well?
It was just seeing some posts on Facebook, and actually a person who I'm friends with was following them and was reposting and commenting. And so I started to follow, and then there was an invitation to join a program. And so I signed up, and that was really the doorway into what is continuous, ongoing expansion, transformation, adventure, unlike anything I could have expected.
Wow. What was that program that you bought first?
The soft entry into the sanctum.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. And so you've been part of the sanctum since when?
End of 2018.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Awesome. So what are you in then? You're in the sanctum and...
So in the sanctums, School of Alchemy, because I joined core. I have done a number of retreats with Amma, both in person and online. I've done Well Woman Wisdom Practitioner training, and of course, Path to Purpose.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
And,
so I think
a couple of the dyad programs as well.
Yeah. I think you're a lifer.
Yeah, I would say so. I would say so.
Awesome. So when they were talking about Path to Purpose back in 2020, last year, actually, no, they first introduced it, I want to say like the end of 2019 and the beginning of 2020. So they were kind of seeding it along the way. What were you thinking about it before you joined?
There is such a plethora of offerings from the Infinite Couple that I honestly, in the beginning, was thinking, I'm good with what I have. And I was called to other programs that, Creatures of Myth and Legend, that sounded more exotic. That sounded more enticing to me. And I thought, Path to Purpose, I kind of know what I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm on my way. So I really pushed it aside in favor of some of the other programs. And it was a last minute sign up for me, actually. Completely unexpected.
What did it?
I had an online conversation with Baba Richards, and because there was one particular transmission that they offered right before Path to Purpose was to begin. And so I signed up for a conversation with him. And, I asked him, I said, look, I'm going to be doing this other program. It kind of feels like it's too much to take this on as well, because I know what each of their programs offers. And it is, a full course banquet of all kinds of things. So I was hesitant about doing one program and then adding another one into it, particularly given the schedule that we had with the number of weekly transmissions and so forth. And, in one 5-minute online conversation, that changed everything, and I got to express my doubts and hesitation. And then that made room for yes, this is for me.
And let's talk about those doubts and hesitations, because like you said, I mean, you were in a lot. You were already part of the world, the universe, and you were in the retreats and all that stuff. What was your life like? Let's even go back before Path to Purpose. What was your life like before the Infinite Couple? What was going on for you then?
I was definitely in a period of searching, wanting to connect to my feminine. I had been exposed to different teachings and so forth. And so I was on that and wanting to incorporate, and of course, always longing to find my beloved, right? And to be in marriage and now I understand the expansion of that container as well. And so all of that was going on for me, as well as finding a concrete expression for my work and my purpose. I had a lot of ideas in my head, and I even had, some things written down, but it hadn't fully formed yet into something concrete that I could actually offer into the world. I was very much in a suspended kind of state of limbo. Things were not fully formed.
And so as you've enrolled in all these things, and Path to Purpose was sort of, did you not see those doubts and hesitations before talking to Barbara Richard?
Not particularly, because I was so full with all of the other offerings and programs that I was a part of, and I was involved in a study and inquiry cell. And so that was very rich, to be involved in a particular course and have those interactions with a group, and all of the other courses and transmissions that were happening and that were available. And I felt, oh my goodness, I don't know that I have the bandwidth to take in any more of it. So I was I thought very satisfied and engaged with what was being offered to me in the moment.
I see. So now that is quite interesting that you say all that, because you have a legal background.
Yes.
You are a lawyer. So what was that like? How does a lawyer, and what kind of law did you practice, or do you practice?
I'm not practicing at the moment. I practiced, kind of across the legal spectrum, from litigation into corporate and commercial law.
So that sounds pretty tough. And how was that like, being a woman and coming into, how did you come to a feminine space, being in, button up, suit and tie, corporate, this, that, and the other? How?
Oh, I did not. I was not in my feminine at all. I was operating very much in faux masculine. I didn't understand it at the time until I came to meet Amma, Shri Namaste. But that is, and I understand now why I had such conflict with the practice of law, because I have my feminine being, my feminine essence, and I was acting or trying to act in a masculine way. I don't know now how I would approach the practice of law as a feminine being, because I'm doing things related to the law now. And so that is, a wonderful transition for me. But definitely back then, I was not acquainted with my feminine essence, not in the way that I am now, and also I was under the misapprehension of having both feminine and masculine qualities. And I would say that I was very much operating in a faux masculine way.
So I want to stay here for a minute, because it's not every day I talk to a lawyer, number one. And you are probably a good representation of a lot of corporate women.
Yes.
So what is the environment like as a lawyer, being a woman, being in that environment, having to do your cases? How did that look for you, being, this co-opted masculine?
So first of all, there's a heavy emphasis on the intellect and a lot of order and structure. And I think there are feminine ways of being that can add and bring to all kinds of corporate careers. But because we seek to fit ourselves in as feminine women into these structures that are very masculine, and we haven't found our way to express ourselves and to be in those structures and offer the feminine complements to that, which any company or corporation or business would be enhanced by, an equal offering of the feminine aspects. Many of the sales tactics and techniques, I think, really thrive with feminine qualities and flavors added to them. And anyone will tell you who's dealing with a very complex problem that you want people who have different perspectives, different ways of thinking, because that will bring about solutions that you cannot come to in just one perspective or one way of thinking. That is where you come to a holistic perspective. And those are the kinds of solutions, business and legal, that will have the long-term impacts and effects.
So in a day-to-day practice, now as a feminine woman, how would you change what's going on in the practice of law as a feminine woman?
Oh, I think it would have to start with schedule, and how your time is claimed and ordered. Yeah, there's a lot of demand on your time, and there would have to be more breathing space incorporated in. I mean, we can still do the work, and sometimes it's just going to look a little bit differently than traditional. I mean, there are certain things that we cannot change. We cannot change court schedules and certain meetings with discoveries or other parties' business negotiations. But we can change the atmosphere in which those things happen. There can be a more welcoming and connected, the feminine is all about connection and relationship. And those settings are greatly enhanced if we are allowed to bring more of that connection into it, rather than just a straight focused laser, strike trying to aim at the problem. Because every situation, even a business negotiation, even, something that's under threat of litigation, has all kinds of human elements around it, and it does boil down to human interaction and human relationships that are not necessarily crisply and clearly expressed on the paper, just as a paper problem.
Wow, that is deep. That's good insight. That is good. Well, so you're talking about, I love that you said reclaiming your time. Like, it has to start with the schedule. Mm-hmm. What was your life like pre Infinite Couple?
Oh, I mean, very regimented, weekdays, get up, grab maybe a coffee and something to eat on the way out the door, get to the office, face the traffic, get to the office, get to my desk, turn on the computer. If the computer wasn't already on, by that time, probably the phone was already ringing, and, you just pretty much nonstop, right? Between meetings or court dates, or, who knows what was going to come up on the phone, whether a client was calling and so forth. And you just, your attention is gripped for the whole day, that just, there's an intense focus that, you forget almost to sit back and take and breathe a little bit,
Wow. And well, what toll did that cause in your body and other areas of your life?
Oh, it was a tremendous toll. I mean, the long-term stress of just not even making time for myself. I really had to, try and sneak in a yoga class or something like that. And, there were some who got in like a lunchtime run or something like that. But, for me, that didn't work. And so just trying to claim some time for me, right? And also the boundaries around, there was a time earlier in the practice of law, before voicemail, before faxing and stuff, where it was contained within business hours. You would call out to the other lawyer, or, court was only in certain times. Clients could only reach you at certain times. But now with the technology of smartphones and remote working abilities, it's like people want to have access to you all the time, and they want an answer, which is not always feasible, right? And that leads to a lot more multitasking, right? To deal with a matter, you should really be quietly at your desk somewhere, not, on your phone while you're driving, trying to sort through some sort of issue or negotiation, right? But that's what a lot of the practice has become is, we want instantaneous answers and so forth. And they're certainly not possible all the time, and not desirable in terms of the quality of the work and the contracts or whatever that gets negotiated.
Mm. So the women that you work with, that was the pace, that was pretty much standard?
Oh yes, absolutely. And quite frankly, I was the only female attorney in my firm. And
wow,
there is a particular trend with females. There are more than 50% of the students at law school are female now. And within 5 years of practice, that drops down to about 30%. And after 10 years of practice, down to about 20%. So there's a lot there, that is ripe for discussion around a feminine being and feminine priorities, family and other things. And those are all worthy conversations. But a lot of it has to do with just the stress and the pace, which I think we as women feel differently than our male and masculine.
How many hours were you working a week?
Oh, easily 60 to 70. Mm-hmm.
Wow. So what about dating or marriage or?
No. definitely no time for that. And of course, the colleagues that I was encountering on the other side of a business file or a litigation file were all, engaged or married themselves. So it wasn't even a good way to meet men,
Wow.
Yeah.
Were men mostly married?
Yes.
Okay. So men would be getting married, but women.
Definitely more men. I mean, absolutely some of the women, but definitely more men. And then I would say that of the women who were practicing attorneys, they had some choices to make around family or not.
Or how many years?
Childcare and family.
How many years had you been practicing before you came to Infinite Couple?
So I practiced for over 10 years.
Okay.
And I left the practice a number of years ago. So I had already left the practice of law when I came to Infinite Couple.
Oh, all right. So then how do you go from that fast pace? I mean, what I'm trying to do is make the leap between fast paced, high octane, very intense lawyer to this, I see your hair is flowy and
oh, and I'm actually wearing a dress. I can't tell you. In all the years that I practiced law, my wardrobe was shades of black and gray mostly, Wow. It might put a little color pop in with an accent scarf or something, and pantsuits. I don't think in the years that I practiced law, I may have had one or two skirts. I don't think I had a dress in my whole wardrobe, Yeah.
So that movie with Reese Witherspoon when she was a lawyer, what is that movie called? Do you know what I'm talking about? It was Legally Blonde.
Legally Blonde, yes.
Is that not true? Like women walk in with all this hot pink and just this.
Oh goodness, it's very dependent on the city and on the firm culture that you're in. I would, it would just sort of depend. But I would say overall, definitely when I was practicing, it was more common for the female attorneys, especially when you went into court, because there's a certain dress code required when you go into court. The female attorneys definitely favored pantsuits over skirt suits.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, all right. So you left the practice. Why? Why'd you leave?
It was tearing away at my soul. I could not confront the daily fictions that we are forced to perpetuate and propagate in the regular practice of law. So it was an act for me of reclaiming my soul. Yeah.
So when you found the Infinite Couple, had you been trying other things to sort of piece some things back together?
Yeah,
or?
absolutely. I mean, I have been on a spiritual path for many years, and I have followed different teachings and teachers. And, you know, I felt like meeting Sri Namaste was, you know, the next teacher in my path, particularly as it relates to the feminine, because I was very much interested in all of that, you know, the goddess, and I wanted to be a part of female empowerment and all of that. So that's kind of the space where I was in when I first came across, you know,
Gotcha. So then what makes a woman who has all the things that they already offer add in one more thing? Because you hadn't finished the other things. So, like, what was it? Not necessarily like what Baba said or anything, but what was the shift that you made that, like, oh my gosh, I really need this?
So I think really we get a series of invitations, and there are some invitations that I turned down and others that I waited to RSVP and others that I jumped on right away. And so with the case to Path to Purpose, this was an invitation that I waited to respond. I did not give it an outright no, because I knew other sisters they had given their yes long before I had. And I just thought, no, it's not for me at this time. But I didn't cut it off completely. And so then there was a transmission, and I cannot remember now the content of the transmission or what it was, but there was something said, and it would have been very short, and that I felt very directly. It pierced me, and that's what caused me to reach out to Baba to schedule a time to talk to him about the Path to Purpose. And so I think I had been in the Infinite Couple universe long enough to understand that there were these opportunities and invitations. And when I felt that calling, because really it is an inner calling, it's for me that temporarily silences the doubt and the hesitation. And so then the next act was, okay, I had experienced enough before of saying no to invitations or letting them pass me by, or jumping on the invitation and responding and saying yes. So I had enough experience with that to know, oh, I felt something pretty strongly and clearly here. I need to follow up with it. I need to ask for the link, or I need to ask for the time to speak with Baba. And so that's what I did. You know, it was that combination of being able to recognize this is an invitation, it's addressed to me. I felt a particular spark or something, and I had to take the next step to reach out. Yeah.
Wow. All right. So you're in Path to Purpose. Maybe first month goes by. What's your impression? What's going on?
Oh my God. I thought I had been on a spiritual path for decades, and I have so much shadow to clear. Oh my goodness. How is it that this shadow could be, you know, directing a large part of my life and my behavior and everything? Yeah, I was overwhelmed, I think, to say, at the realization of shadows operating in my life.
What areas was it operating? What the most?
The most. Definitely in dating for marriage, you know, seeking out the one, about making that a priority or not. And to a certain extent, career, you know, work-based thing of holding back and not, you know, moving forward and taking stronger action in that direction. Yeah, I would say those are the two most prominent areas in my life that I found the shadow to be operating in.
What was the first breakthrough moment that you can remember as you were in the program when you were like, oh, wow, this is super powerful?
Earlier on in Path to Purpose, we had been introduced to the technique of shadow alchemy, and I had the opportunity to practice it with my, the man with whom I was in a long distance relationship at the time. And I had a very intense, I would say, couple of days of communication with him. All of this kind of transpired over the part of the week, but I was doing the shadow alchemy technique so frequently, and there were times when we would talk on the phone and I would get triggered and I would hang up. I would have to block him temporarily on my phone or turn off my ringer or something, do the shadow alchemy, and then I would turn my phone back on and he would call and we would have, and that went on for a couple of days. I was just fast and furious. And what resulted in is that I broke off a 4-year relationship, and I felt so clean, so clear. I did not have any feelings of vengeance towards him or anger, or it was just clearly the thing that I could do. And I did it so cleanly. There wasn't anything lingering, and it felt so complete. And I thought, oh my goodness, this is, I think this is how a quote unquote spiritual person deals with conflict or issues that come up, they can just move through it and not have any residual feelings. So that, I think, was really my first incredibly powerful breakthrough with the shadow alchemy.
That sounds like that was like the first month or two, maybe.
Yeah.
And you broke off a 4-year relationship.
I did.
Good gracious, you were not playing. Wow. So what was happening? Okay, so after that, like throughout the program and even up until now, like what were some of the breakthroughs? Some other breakthroughs, even little ones, if you consider them.
I would say that is the next part of the shadow alchemy, because in all my years of practicing yoga and meditation, I was really chasing after the big, celebratory, lights flashing experiences. But with the shadow alchemy, yes, there are those big breakthrough experiences, and it is the consistent doing of the technique on everyday mundane matters. And so that's where kind of like sort of the phase 2 of shadow alchemy comes in, is, it feels incredible when you have a really big transformation moment. And then there's all kinds of everyday irritations. I mean, my goodness, for all of us, family members have to be a big source of trigger, like all kinds of close relationship with family members or friends and so forth. Those are all ripe for ongoing alchemy. And every time I do that, it gets better,
Wow.
The relationship gets better. I'm cleaner and clearer with my boundaries, or just with my desires. I'm unapologetic in standing for what I truly desire. And it is the consistent practice that I think bears fruit over time, after you've had some of the really peak transformation experiences from shadow alchemy, I think.
That is good. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, you're right about that. Because you don't see those little things as things. I was just, right. I'm just irritated.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So now you mentioned yoga and meditation. Before you had the tool in Path to Purpose, what were you doing with your shadow, or how did you manage it? Or was it yoga and meditation or some other things?
Yes, in some of the practices that we have in the sanctum, and breathing, visualizations, mantras, all of those kinds of tools were definitely available to me. And sometimes just ignoring it, that was probably a lot of it. Ignore and avoid. That was a large part.
Wow. Mm-hmm. So this shadow alchemy killed it for good, do you think?
killed.
Your
Well,
shadow, like areas where you had been struggling. You're no longer struggling in some of those areas now?
yeah, I'm no longer struggling. I'm thriving in those areas now. Yeah,
Oh, I love that.
yeah.
You're thriving. Okay. I'm looking at my list of questions that I want to get to here. What would you say to someone who's maybe in that corporate space and they're a woman and they were like you, searching for something and just not knowing what to do with themselves? What would you say to them?
Path to Purpose is unique. It is unlike any other system, meditation, practice, anything like that, because it's going to show you you. And in doing that, you're going to get the tools so that you transform yourself. So many of the stresses that I felt in my practice, in my law practice, that I'm sure are ongoing in all kinds of businesses and corporate practice, we have a tendency to blame a circumstance or a person outside of us. Mm-hmm. And the shadow alchemy shows us that it's inside of us and that we have the capacity to, through the process of shadow alchemy, to utterly transform that and bring back the power to ourselves so that we are a more full, complete, whole person. And the ability and the power to create everything that we desire really is within us. It's not just a trite expression. It's that in motion, in action, of coming into our divine being and creating our life from and as that divine being.